It happened on a night no one expected. The streets were cold, the air heavy, and Jonathan Roumie, the man known by millions as Jesus and the Chosen, was walking quietly through a neighborhood where very few cameras ever go. Then it happened. A voice cracked the silence. "Sir, can I ask you one question?" He turned. A homeless woman sat on the steps of a closed church, her face weathered by years of pain, her hands trembling as they clutched a blanket that looked older than she was. Her eyes, tired, desperate, but searching, met his. And in that moment, Jonathan knew this wasn't just a conversation. It was holy ground, because the question she asked him would inspire millions, and his response would echo far beyond that street. Jonathan sat down on the cold stone step beside her. No cameras, no lights, just a man and a woman, both broken in their own ways. She whispered, "If Jesus is real, does he even see me?" The world seemed to freeze. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't a theological test. It was the cry of a soul who had been unseen, ignored, and stepped over for years. Jonathan's throat tightened, because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't playing Jesus. He wasn't on set. He wasn't reciting lines. He was just Jonathan. And this woman was asking the one question that haunts the human heart. Does he see me? Jonathan hesitated. His mind raced. He thought of every time people had mistaken him for Jesus on the street. Every time someone grabbed his hand with tears in their eyes, asking for prayer as if he could heal them himself. And now, a woman who owned nothing but a blanket and a broken heart was looking at him with that same desperation. "Jonathan, why do you feel unseen?" The woman's voice broke. "Because people walk past me every day. They look away. They clutch their bags. They pretend I don't exist. And I wonder, does God do the same? Or am I invisible to him too?" Jonathan's heart pounded. This was no script, no rehearsal. It was life, raw, unscripted, and eternal. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. What if he failed her? What if his words weren't enough? And then, he remembered. Jonathan leaned closer. His voice shook, but it carried something more than human. "Do you know the first people Jesus spoke to after he was born?" The woman looked at him, puzzled. Not kings, not priests, not rich men in palaces. He spoke to shepherds, the forgotten ones. The outcasts, the ones nobody noticed. And do you know why? Her eyes softened. "Jonathan, because God wanted the world to know. He sees the unseen. He notices the forgotten. And he calls them first." Tears welled in her eyes. Jonathan continued, his voice breaking. "Look at me. Right now. You are not invisible. Not to him. Not ever. The same Jesus who saw the blind man on the side of the road, the woman at the well, the leper no one would touch. He sees you. By name. With love." The woman's lips trembled. She whispered, "Then why am I still here? Still suffering?" Jonathan took a deep breath. Because sometimes the greatest miracle isn't God pulling us out of the fire. It's him standing with us inside it. And tonight, maybe he sent me here just to tell you that you are not alone. Silence. Then, her tears fell. But they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of release. In that moment, something changed. Not just for her, but for everyone who would hear this story. Jonathan stood slowly. He offered his hand. The woman hesitated. Then, she reached for it. "Jonathan, you asked me if Jesus is real. I can't prove it with arguments. But I can tell you this, he saw you tonight. And he wanted you to know you are loved." The woman smiled faintly. For the first time in years, perhaps. And Jonathan walked away, his heart heavy but burning with a strange hope. Because sometimes the most powerful sermons aren't preached on stages. They're whispered on cold church steps, in the middle of the night, between two broken souls, who both discover they are seen by God. When Jonathan later shared this story, millions listened. And across the world, people whispered to themselves the words the woman had once doubted. "Yes, he sees me.